Love you, man. So, does this sound okay for the folks in the back? I just don't know where I need to put the mic. We're good? Awesome. So just help me out. Anybody from the West Coast? You know, California, Oregon, awesome. You and I got like 6 hours going home tonight, so. I came out yesterday, going back tonight. There's not many people on this planet that could have had me come back from Asia, be on the ground less than 48 hours, jump on another cross-country flight other than Jim Ingersoll. So he is the man. He does so much for the real estate investing world. I just had to do this for him. And again, this is his topic. You know, we talked about this a couple of times, going from 8 to 80. What does it look like? How many landlords in the room, you have at least one rental home? Awesome. We are going to get along just fine. I used to present for a living way back when I had a day job. It's been 2 years. I retired from work 2 years ago. It's an amazing feeling. We're going to talk about that today. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. I promise you the worst thing that I will say is it's later in the presentation. I am here for you at Jem's request. So let's have some fun together, okay? That's the only agreement that we have is let's have some fun. Okay? So, how many of you have either bought or read the book One Rental at a Time? Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't read it, it is the story of my wife and I going from a single rental house on Norris Drive in Fresno, California, through 15 years and ultimately financial independence. We started in roughly 2001. And if you know the time frame, that means we bought all the way up the crash, we survived the crash, and we came all the way back. So that book right there is a pretty exciting 15-year journey. If you want to know about buy and hold real estate, it's in there. It was kind of my answer to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my life. It gave me a new mindset, but it didn't tell me how, right? It talked about a condo in Seattle and a condo in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm like, all right, well, what's next, right? So I had to document our entire story. It's all in there, the good, the bad, the ugly. And if you have read it and you haven't written a review yet, I'm giving you an hour and a half of my time. Can you give me 5 minutes of yours and go back to Amazon and leave a review? Yes? Yeah. All right, I have 119 as of today, so I better have like 150 when I get on that plane later today. The other thing I do, because again, I've been out of work for 2 years and I'm a kind of type A person, is I had to find something to do. So I produce daily content on my YouTube channel called One Rental at a Time. Who saw I actually put up a video this morning at 4:30 in the morning Eastern? It was a live stream, so it was live from my hotel room in room 435, I think it was. I've already checked out, so you can't put bills on my tab. It was about the American dream this morning, the 5 things that I think about when I think about the American dream. So you can check it out. Again, daily content there. Also on Instagram, somebody takes the other thing I put out and they put up Mike Zuber quotes on Instagram. Everything I do is one rental at a time. So here's the deal. In the book, I sort of talk about our journey, and I think there are really 3 stages real estate investors go through. Stage 1, just to set the context, is when you're getting started. I believe the most important thing you have to do when you get started is learn your market. You're going to hear me repeat things throughout this presentation. And also, just so you know, you actually don't have to record this, because I did a dry run and posted it on YouTube. It's scheduled to go live in like 4 hours after y'all see it. So you can just sit back, relax. There's like 2 spelling errors that are in the draft that aren't here, but that's like it. That's the difference. All right, so just enjoy. Let's have some fun together. So you got to learn your market. So this is what I mean when I say learn your market. I believe the whole secret to being a good buy and hold real estate investor is answering one and only one question. Let's see if anybody follows me. Anybody idea what the question is?
What price do I buy at?
Kind of. Kind of.
Would I live there?
No. I don't even live in any of my rentals. Are you kidding me? No, it is it a bad, average, good, or great deal for my market and my asset? I don't care what market you're investing in. I don't care about the asset type. I don't care. right? I believe every market you can, if you do your research, you can find what is average, what is bad, what is good, and what is great. That's the question. That's the only question. After that, it's all, everything else follows that. Doesn't matter. Unless you're doing good and great deals, you know, that's the only thing that matters. You got to understand the ups and downs of being a small-time landlord. So most of you raised your hand. How many of you had to evict more than 12 people in a year? Yep. 20?
Well, I got a property management company, so it's
Oh, no, dude, come on.
not 20 out of my own, but 12 out of my own.
12 out of your own, all right, we can play. Right, it happens. Right? You got to understand that being a small-time landlord, there are ups and downs. And anybody think it's better or worse to be a landlord in a good or bad economy? Well, it kind of depends on what you own, but it's different. The best time to be a landlord is right now. Rents are going up. Everybody got a job. You lose your job, you get another job. Right? Even if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not out of work long, right? Everybody's seen those unemployment rates sub 3.5%. It won't be like that forever. I'm sorry. It will change at some point. Okay, so again, phase one, stage one, whatever you want to call it, I believe lasts at least 5 years. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. It's 5 to 8 years. It lasted for me 8 years. Stage two, I'm not going to give anything away. That's the topic of this presentation. But just because I've been there, stage three, that's where financial freedom is. You can cover your bills. You're not going to live fancy, right, as Gary Vee says, but you cover your bills, right? You got 10 grand in bills, you got 12 grand coming in. You got 3 grand in bills, you got 5 grand coming in. Whatever it is for you, right, you don't have to do anything anymore. That is a wonderful place to be, right? Do what you want with whom you want, right? When you want, it's awesome. You will get to a point where you are going to look at your portfolio, and at least we did, is we rejuggled debt, right? I believe in debt. I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey fan, right? The whole you gotta pay cash for your rentals. Are you freaking kidding me? Where's the leverage? That's just insane. But when you're done, maybe lever up some, pay off others, create multiple different piles, so God forbid 2008 happens again, they can't take everything, right? So rejuggle debt. Maybe you want to sell off some of your bad performers, right? Now you don't have a day job where you get the checks coming anymore. Maybe you want to raise your cash position. Just have a little bit more reserves. Be conservative, right? I believe in being happy. Everything I do every day is to be happy. If I don't like to do it, I don't have to do it anymore. So I'm only here because I'm happy. I want to be here. I'm happy to be here. I want to help Jen. This is the big thing. This is the big social media thing that just drives me batshit crazy. Oh, can I swear on video? Because I'm going to swear. So, yeah, well, you get to bleep those out. So everybody see these social media things about, hey, buy my course and do this and do that and grow and scale and blah. Why? You want to be an ego-driven maniac and say you got 1,000 units? Wouldn't you rather go to your kid's soccer game? Heaven forbid, even if you don't have kids, wouldn't you rather go to the gym? Shoot, wouldn't you want to go see a movie at 1 o'clock when no one's there? I've done it. It's awesome. There's like 7 people in the room. It's like, what? This is the first day of release. It's awesome. It's a wonderful life, man. I am so blessed. All right, so those are the 3 stages. We having fun yet? Yeah. Awesome. We just slide 1, baby. Oh, slide 2, maybe. All right, so about us. So not everybody knows this in the room, so this is just one slide. When I say us, it's my wife and I. Just so we're clear, everything I say, you can insert Olivia next to it, right? That's my wife's name. So it's definitely a we, definitely an us, all that stuff. So we were burned out stock market investors. Anybody investing in stocks back in 2000? It's kind of like today, right? It's like 2 decades later, and it's kind of like the same thing. Everybody has no earnings, and their stocks are way up. And I was there. I made 6 figures day trading stock until I didn't. And then I lost 6 figures and didn't have much left. It was insane. Tesla, anybody think Tesla today? Crazy? We spent every penny we made. I was raised, my parents were both high school graduates in the military, a Marine and a Navy, and I thought I made it when I made more than 50 grand a year. I really thought I made it when I made 100 grand. Right? I was the only person in my family with a college education ever. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all of that. I thought I made it because I had a good W-2. We spent every penny. We were freaking stupid. My life didn't change until I was 30 when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right? I was making 6 figures a year after 26. Had nothing to show for it because the stock market took it all. Right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed our life. I've said it 3 times now. He's got his royalties. Good for him. 25 million copies that guy sold. Crazy. But it didn't tell me how to get started. Right? It did change my mindset. I will be ever grateful for that purple book. It really helped me. I wouldn't be here standing today without it. But it didn't tell me how. Also, I happen to live in the Bay Area. Anybody knows the Bay Area specifically? It's called Mountain View, California. Woohoo! We got terrible. My condo is 1.6 million. Are you freaking kidding me? Why does a freaking 1,300 square foot condo go? This is stupid. Freaking Google employees all around me. It's amazing. But again, I couldn't buy a rental there. Right? Anybody here live in an expensive market where you just can't buy a rental? It just doesn't make logical sense. I spent 52 Sundays looking for the freaking magic street in the Silicon Valley where it would cash flow. Because every book I read said invest 30 minutes from home. Anybody read those books? Fucking hate those books. Sorry, I told you you're going to have to bleep some stuff out. Jim's not inviting me back. You swear too much. So it's too expensive. So we ended up finding a market in Fresno, California. It's 2.5 hours one way. So if I want to go see a house, it's a 5-hour commitment minimum. Minimum. Yeah. I'm sleeping in my own bed. Yeah. So again, you can find markets close to home. You just got to be willing to drive. Most areas, Manhattan, Miami, LA, if you get in a car and drive 2.5 hours, usually you can find a market that's more affordable. Everybody agree? Yes. Right? So I know there's a whole out-of-state, in-state, all of that. I'll just answer that question now for me, Mike Zuber, Olivia's opinion. I used to travel a lot on airplanes, and I was not going to go get on another airplane to see my rentals because I'm a control freak, and I'd want to see them at a drop of a hat. So that was my answer. I was not going to get on another plane, but I was okay driving. Right? So that's how I had to answer that question. Because if you're willing to go 2.5 hours by car, you can go a lot farther 2.5 hours by plane, right? But that was what was important to me, and we've stayed there ever since. So again, we knew no one, never been there. I still have never spent the night in Fresno, California. People think that's funny. I own almost 200 units there now, and I've never spent the night. I've had long days, right? I'm up at 4 a.m. and back at 11. But I used to spend 100 nights in the hotels. I don't enjoy that. So I will go and come back. I've still never spent the night in Fresno. We didn't have any systems. We didn't know anybody. Nobody in my family ever owned any rentals. Right? We were jumping in with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's like we're going to do something different. We're going to change our future. So we bought our first rental, and it was horrible. Like horrible. I'm shocked I'm standing here today. So here's the quick story of it. It's actually a video on my channel where I go to it in detail. But we did everything correct. Credit check, reference check, income check, criminal records, all of that. One thing we didn't check was, are they happily married? Anybody ever seen that application? I missed that one. I still haven't seen it. Well, unfortunately, the wife gave up 2 weeks into moving into our rental, and she left. The husband decided to become a professional drinker and decided to take his empty wine bottles and shove them in my drywall as a wine rack. And this is California, I've already said, so I have at least 2 months to get them out for lack of payment. At least, right? So basically, our first rental that we spent 100 grand on, 107 grand, we were so happy. It was getting 1,100 rent, 1095. We celebrated when they signed the lease. Yeah. Never saw a rent payment. That sucked. Cost $1,000 to get them out for the attorney. 3 months, almost 3 full months to get him out. Sheriff lockout the whole bit, like move his shit to the street by the sheriff. Then 15 grand to the repairs to our house that we'd already remodeled once. How do you like me now? I looked at Olivia going, Fresno, huh? It's kind of far away. You sure you want to do this, honey? This kind of hurts. To the credit, I wish she was here. She said, suck it up. We knew this was, yeah, suck it up, buttercup. Yeah, exactly. Woohoo! Wife is awesome. So again, the story on that property does turn out well. It never had another, we moved in another tenant. We ended up selling it or 1031 exchanging it for $265. Like 3 years later, you'll see it later in the deck. So it does have a happy ending, but again, bad shit happens when you're a landlord. You feel me? It happens. Stuff breaks, tenants lie to you, people steal from you. Mother Nature is a pain in the butt. It all can happen, right? Just be ready for it. The one thing that saved us, and Olivia gets 100% credit for this, is we were on the same page. I wasn't convinced when I'm standing on the lawn looking at my newly damaged house that is empty with trash all over it, that we were. But when she said, let's go, I was like, okay, we're going to do something. And the rest was history from there. So here's a quick phase 1 review, because again, we're going to talk a lot about phase 2. But phase 1 for me is I do not believe you spend $1 acquiring a property until you can answer that key question. What is a bad, average, good, or great deal in whatever chosen market you have? Right? Get educated, learn, research, network, all of that. Don't write an offer until you can tell someone confidently this is a good or great deal, because I have looked at 100 properties and this one produces a 7.2% return and averages 6. Until you can tell me that, don't talk to me. You have not done your research. Nothing pisses me off more when somebody is so freaking excited, they go to some boot camp and then they go and look on the MLS and they write 3 offers on Monday. You're like walking up to the craps table, throwing a wad of cash on the table and go, 17. Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, yeah, it could work. Like, what is it, 1 in 38? Yeah, maybe. I mean, come on, you're not even betting on black or red. You're like, 17. Oh, man, come on. 99% of the stuff listed, right, for us, in the MLS or Realtor or Zillow or Redfin or whatever, auction.com, whatever you're looking at, is bad or average. 99%. Your job's to find the 1% or create the 1%. You all know this, that when something's listed, you don't have to offer list price? Shh, don't tell anyone. It's a secret. Oh, shh. I haven't offered list price on a property in a long time. I haven't offered within 10% of list price in a long time. My offers would make most of you uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that, because I don't need lots of yes answers. Right? Again, some people look at me and go, hey, you got to all this stuff, you must have had a system or mailers or a huge network of realtors. No. I was buying stuff before we could look on our smartphones by using my computer to go to the local MLS or Realtor.com. 99% of the stuff we retired on was available to everyone in this room, to everyone in the country. Don't you dare tell me you can't retire on stuff that's listed in the MLS. I'm living proof that that's not true. We bought 2 properties over our entire, until we retired, that were not in the MLS. One was on auction.com, literally auction.com, and the other was a bank president that came and said, hey, you're fixing the property next door, do you want mine? Other than those 2, everything was publicly available to everybody in this room. So I'm adamant that you need to learn your market. Bad, average, good, great. 1% is good or great. Okay? No system, no direct mail, no network, nothing. Right? I'd been to Fresno one time when I drove to Yosemite. We didn't even stop. It wasn't memorable. Okay? The only thing I knew how to do is to compare deals. Right? I could build the spreadsheet. I can understand what cash flow would be. I can understand what I now call yield. Many people call cash on cash. Anybody in this room ever compare a house with an apartment building? Yeah, most people don't. I do it all the time. I don't care. It could be a studio apartment or a studio house, a little 500 square foot house built in the 20s. I could compare that to a 20-unit apartment building. Same spreadsheet. All I want to know is how hard my cash is working. And cash means down payment, make ready, closing costs. Okay? It's really a simple equation. The numerator is expected yearly cash flow. The denominator is all the cash in the deal. Also, we knew what part of town to avoid. Anybody ever see those social media posts about all those 12 and 17 and 18% returns in pick a state, Ohio or wherever? Well, most of the great returns in Excel come from parts of town that you may not want to put your money in. People are selling you in a spreadsheet. You need to go see these things, right? We had 2 rules. There were parts of town we would never buy in. Also, I had one more level. Olivia had what we called the veto rule. I don't care how long it took me to get a deal. I don't care how great a deal I thought it was. If Olivia saw it and we saw everything we got in escrow, everything, she could veto it on the spot, no questions asked. She could have a tingly feeling, and sometimes I asked her, she goes, it's on a T, she's Asian, so she talks about feng shui all the time. It's on a T intersection and it's bad. I'm like, I don't care. You want no? Okay, great, move on. Let's find another one. Whatever the reason, it was no argument. She had veto power. Good husband. Just 30 years, baby. You only got to make so many mistakes. Stupid, 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 stupid. Told you this is going to be fun. So it took us about 7-8 years to exit phase 1. Okay, so let's talk about next. All right, now for what Jim wanted me to talk about, 8 to 80. So here's the setup. The big key to phase 2 is you're re-leveraging capital that you spent in phase 1. Right? Does everyone make sense? When I say those words, does that make sense? Okay, so let's give some examples. First off, how can you reuse capital, right? Well, first off, it's not only capital that you put down or make ready or all of that, but you also have appreciation, right? Jim talked about that earlier, appreciation being an important part of this. But you also have mortgage paydown, right? You've been lowering the debt because, at least in this case, we're 7 or 8 years in. A great example that most people understand and think about is a cash out refi. Anybody ever done a cash out refi in the room? Pretty cool, right? All right, we're going to test you all now. How many of you used a cash out refi and bought a fucking toy? Like a jet ski or a truck or anything like that? Nobody? How'd that work out?
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah!
I ate a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I drank expensive wine. Are you kidding me? It was awesome.
You got the memories to prove it.
I still remember it.
Yeah, you clearly didn't drink enough. Don't do that. Use cash flow to do that. But don't ever I've been doing this a long time. I can still think of 2 individuals that were worth $10 million in 06, 07 that were literally bankrupt by 09. They had portfolios that would dwarf mine. Gone. Once the first domino fell, they couldn't get out of the way. They bought all the cars, all the toys. They had the European dream vacations. If you are going to take cash out refi in phase 2, the only thing I give you permission to do is buy more real estate. Okay? If you want to go buy yourself a toy, you can use cash flow for that, not equity. Equity you got to treat and care for. Are we clear on this now? Yeah. Awesome. 1031 exchange. This is what we use, and I'm going to give you this 7 examples that I did in the next slide, I think. Anybody not know what a 1031 exchange is? So a 1031 exchange, simply said, is you can take the equity from property A and via a like kind, like rental for rental, you can move the equity from property A to equity in property B and not pay the IRS. Right? There's all kinds of rules and stuff like that. And there are accountants and lawyers and stuff in the room. Ask them about that. As somebody who's done lots of them, it's awesome. Right? So look that up. If you have equity and you're at the right time, it makes sense. It's a wonderful thing. And keyed are 8 to 80. But here's a big deal that's unspoken. For us, the first 7 years, as I've already documented, we were in California. So think 02 to 08. You can look at the charts. Anybody know what happened to California real estate from 02 to 08? Like, I don't know which way you guys are looking, but it was up, right? Not down, it was up. We're sitting in 08 with 6 houses in a duplex, so 8 units. I'm ready to buy my 9th. I'm looking at a house down the street from the first one we bought. The first one we bought, you can look it up, it's 1818 Norris Drive East. It was 107 grand. Same configuration, down the street, around the corner. They wanted 260-ish for it. Guess what the rent was? The same. It was 1,100. My stupid brain would not allow me to look at that and think that's a good deal. I was stuck. I had the money, I had the down payment, I've saved it. I knew I needed a 9th one because I wasn't done, but I was stuck. I went to a meeting just like this, where somebody talked about multifamily real estate, specifically small multifamily real estate. I'm sitting in the room, probably in the back, because that's just who I am. I'm a back row kind of person, because I like to sneak out sometimes when the speaker's boring, sneak out. Nobody's leaving, awesome. But the idea is I thought apartments were owned by millionaires. Again, my parents were high school educated, military folks. I never knew anybody that owned an apartment building. And I remember this gentleman coming up to me afterwards and just putting an arm around me and going, oh, it'll be okay. Literally, it'll be okay. He said, go look at 5 to 8 unit buildings. So I did. We found a building on Vassar Drive that we still own today, 5 little 1-bedroom, 1-bath, little 580 square foot, 1-bedroom, 1-baths, that we bought for $223. It rented for $500 each, so 500 times 5 is 25, or 600, so 5 times 6 is 3,000. And we sold the house for $260 something, right? So we moved the equity over, and we had equity left over that we had to put somewhere else. But think about that. We sold a house that rented for $1,100 for $260. We bought 5 units that rented for $3 grand that we paid $220 for. Houses were overvalued. Apartments were undervalued. This is 07, 08. If you ask me today, and it's later in the deck, I believe today it's the other way around. Multifamily is overpriced. Single-family homes are underpriced. So again, what are we doing today? Well, I'll say it now. We're selling apartments and buying lots and lots of houses. Because if you want to be stupid and overpay for something, I'm happy to sell it to you. So when people want to overpay, I say sell or exchange. And when you look at the market, I still look at my market every day. Something I was doing in the back room, if you were watching me, I was scrolling through my phone because I still look at my market every day. Right? It takes me 10 or 15 minutes. Right? So when I say know your market, know your market. Okay. Phase 1. First off, I want to say this. I'm here talking about going from 6 houses in a duplex to 80 units in small apartments. I want you to know that you don't have to do this. If you only ever get 8 houses, I want to applaud for you. You have fundamentally changed your financial future. Over the course of time, by paying those off in appreciation and mortgage pay down, your family will be better off, you will be better off. It is okay. Right? Just because I'm here talking about phase 2 or stage 2, I don't want you to think you have to do this. You don't. If you only get 4 rental houses, I think you have fundamentally changed your life, and I applaud you for that. Okay? I want to make this clear. You don't have to do this. I think I say that like 3 times in this presentation. There's nothing wrong with staying in phase 1. If you just want to add a house every couple of years, good for you. That is awesome. You need to think about your current equity position, right? I'm sitting there with this house on Norris Drive that I paid 107. Let's say debt was 80 grand. It's now worth 260. I have roughly, if you remove transaction costs and all of that, 180 grand in equity. That's what I'm looking at, roughly. I could leave it there. There's an opportunity cost. Do I think Norris Drive is overpriced? Yes. So the answer for me is sell it, let somebody else buy it, and I need to move my equity because I don't really want to pay the IRS unless I have to. Right? So we'll go through my full deal breakdown here in a minute. Again, holding costs, holding, all of that. I really, 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 really enjoy using capital more than once. Right? All that money I saved for my down payments for those first 7 purchases, it was a blast getting to 80 units and not putting any more money in. We did not put a single new dollar into the 80 units. It was all equity that we moved over. It is an awesome feeling. You can go bigger. This makes me really nervous. That's why I put that in quotes. Going bigger or bigger is better has been the right answer for 15 or 16 years of my career. It's not better in 2020 in January, or what are we, February? Come on, God, it's February already. Crazy. So again, I don't think bigger is better today. And again, I run the numbers all the time. Again, at least in my market. But it will change. It will evolve. The markets are always fluid. But you can do that. So here's how we did it. So again, when I say sold, it really means exchange. Right? So we sold a house, bought a 5-plex. House number 2 got me a 13 unit. The duplex we bought actually got us 18 units. Because again, houses were overpriced. Do you remember, do you guys know why these things were so inflated? The real reason? Because bank lending was ridiculous. The last 2 years of appreciation, at least in California, was all artificial. It was all bogus. Countrywide, IndyMac, all these liar loans. That house should never have been worth 260. Maybe 180, 175, maybe. But it got bumped up. So I was able to move all of that equity into apartment buildings which were undervalued because nobody was talking about them. Countrywide, IndyMac, they weren't lending over here. So nobody was looking at them. Right? These are all commercial loans. These are residential loans. Big difference. Real down payments. No down payments. Real asset statements. Liar loans. I mean, if you tell me I'm wrong, that's what was going on.
It's already here again. It's every day.
Man,
No doc commercial loans.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. Things repeat itself, don't it? We've seen this before. It's like, oh, this is going to hurt. Oh, it's going to hurt. The only question is when. It's going to hurt. Not going to hurt me, but it's going to hurt somebody.
Yes.
It's going to hurt somebody. So again, so the other keys to this, again, in this transition from 8 to 80, I did the math for you, right? No new cash. Olivia and I did not take 1 penny out of our checking or savings or money market accounts to go up. It was all equity, either appreciation, some of our down payment was reused, or our mortgage pay down. Okay? All of that was there. This is approximate rent because it was a long time ago, so I could be off $1,000 or $2,000, but here's the idea. We went from $8,500 in rent here. Over 12 months, I think it was technically 13 months, it's now $52,000 gross. That's pretty good. We were cash flowing about $1,500 or $1,600 here. We were cash flowing a hell of a lot more there. Okay, so 8 to 80, stage 2 is good. You got to look at market cycles, got to reuse capital, don't spend it on European vacations or Lexuses or Ferraris or whatever you want to do. Keep growing. Okay, any questions about where I am in this story so far? We doing okay? All right. Enjoying the ride. Awesome. Me too. It was fun. It's fun reliving it. So again, I want you to understand, if you only, I'm going to say this 2 more times, but I don't want you to leave thinking you have to do phase 2. If you only get 4 to 8 single-family homes, that's outstanding, and I believe you've fundamentally changed your life. If that's all you ever want to do, if that's your big dream, goal, ambition, I applaud you. You've changed your life. That's awesome. I'm going to say it again because I don't want you to, hey, I heard Mike Zuber talking, I got to go to 80. No. If you want to go, great, but you don't have to. If you get 4 homes, you win, right? You don't have to go to phase 2. Bigger is not always better. Who watches or who has seen Grant Cardone? Man, that guy is, you all are freaking lying, because that's only like 20% of you raised your hand. Seriously? Only 20% of you even, have you heard of Grant Cardone? Yes. All right. So he's the bigger is better guy. He has single-handedly changed multifamily and syndication investing for all of us. He is fundamentally going to make some people go bankrupt because he has the best access to rates. He has a full network of dealers, so he gets first right of refusal. And everybody's trying to be the next Grant Cardone by going bigger is better. They're doing syndications and LPs and GPs, and they're getting skinnier and skinny deals, and cap rates have gone from 6 to 3.8, and these are just stupid assumptions in the spreadsheets because I get them sent to me all the time. Right? I own apartments. I know what it takes to manage them. You're not going to run an apartment at 25% expenses. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. So bigger is not always better. I believe multifamily is fundamentally overpriced because it is such a small pool and there are so many people chasing it. So what do I do when there's a small pool and lots of people chasing it? I sell into that frenzy, baby, and I buy a bunch of today houses. That's what I'm doing. Please do not believe Grant Cardone. Read that again. Right? Everybody else pushing apartment syndication, et cetera, it is not all rainbows and unicorns. Right? It's not this big pot of gold at the end just because you can say you own 100 units. You got to be able to keep the 100 units. There's a very big difference. Again, you win if you only get 4 to 8 single-family homes. Am I making myself clear? Yes. Awesome. I think I say it one more time. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell you about what I found going to 80 units. Again, nobody in my family had ever done this. I didn't know anybody that had 80 units. At this time, nobody in my network had more than houses, right? Because we had met some people. Turnover. Anybody here own apartments? I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but this is my numbers. My average turnover in a house is 5 years, just over 5 years, meaning they stay 5 years. My average turnover back in 08 for apartments was sub 2 years. Sound about right? Folks that got apartments? Here's the deal. If you don't own apartments, do you know what kills landlords that own apartments? Turnover. Turnover. Yeah, vacancy doesn't help, but turnover kills you. Right? You have 1 or 2 vacancies or turns in a month, this magic Excel spreadsheet that promised cash flow, that shit's red. Right? Anybody know about effective occupancy versus occupancy? Yes? No? Occupancy is how many heartbeats. Right? Effective occupancy are heartbeats that are paying. That's a very different number, especially in a bad economy. I have been through a bad economy. I know what it feels like. Today is the best of all worlds. 3.5% unemployment or better. You lose a job, you get a job. It won't always be this way, I'm sorry. Effective occupancy is a real thing that a lot of people that have been doing this for 5 years don't know. It's real. So expenses. I have run houses, and I have a 37-month chart that I actually built for somebody on like 10 of my houses. I have many of them that are running sub 20% expenses. And I pay property management. I don't manage shit. Sub 20%. I have not been able to do an apartment for less than 40%. This stuff's real, man. You send me a spreadsheet with 25 expenses on apartments, I'm going to rip that stuff up and let my dog chew on it. You're just lying. Either you're an idiot or you're a liar. Which one you want to be? Your call. Another thing, drama. Oh my God. My next door neighbor's music is too loud. They make smelly food. They're parking in my spot. Fuck. I did not sign up for this. I love me some houses. Them property lines are awesome. Do not think owning apartments building is this big sexy thing because you can say you own 1,000 units. I feel for you. If you are self-managing, you have something wrong with you. It's just something broken. No interest in that. However, rent increases are more common. They are more common, at least for me, my experience in apartments. They're smaller, but they're more frequent. Also, turnover, remember, more frequent. You fix a unit, more frequent. Yes?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
What are your rent increases percentage-wise? 5, 10?
Well, I live in the wonderful state of California, which now has rent control. So the answer now is 5% plus inflation. But in reality, I've actually never raised my rents more than that. So it's about 5%. I don't actually think about it on a percentage basis, but when I do the math, it's never been more than 5%. Because I take my stuff near market all the time. I feel for, and if you own stuff in California and you're a mom and pop investor and you love your tenants and you never raised rents and you're like $300 under market, your value of your asset is tanked. And they're just figuring this out now. I thankfully have never lived that way. So like on an apartment, it's usually $25. On a house, it's usually $50.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I like having fun. So you could ask me questions. I'm usually nice, usually.
Because the big thing I've seen other landlords do is they jack up the rent.
Yeah.
And the tenant can't afford it. So the tenant leaves, and then they sit with an empty apartment because they're being greedy. And
No, they're not being greedy, they're being stupid. Let's just call it what it is.
And then it costs them a couple $1,000s to go in there
Yeah.
and retrofit it for the next person.
So here's the deal. I believe you have to treat your good tenants extremely well. If you have paid me rent on time for 12 months in a row, I will not raise your rent. I might do it 24 months later, but I won't raise it that first month or that first year. I won't, because I don't want to make my good tenants have a reason to look somewhere else. What kills landlords?
Turnover.
Turnover. Why do I want to give them a choice? The person who does that is an idiot. Unless you don't like the tenant, they're the problem in the community, they're the one with the loud car with the 17 cats, then go nuts. Raise their rent. They'll leave. There are reasons you can use strategic rent increases, but if you need to take care of your good tenants. Here's the other deal. I have lots of Section 8 tenants. About 40% of my portfolio today is Section 8. I've been as high as 60%, and I own hundreds of units, right? Most of my problems have been with cash tenants, right? I've had one with Section 8, but that's a different problem. But again, I am pro Section 8, right? I grew up very low income, so I get it. I'm here to provide safe housing. I think slumlords should go to jail. I think there's a special place in hell for slumlords. All right, let's just get that out on the table now. I over-improve my stuff, laminate flooring, countertops, undermount sinks, the whole bit, right? But then I get maximum rent. It's not better tenants, right? I can be selective. So again, increases are more. Cash flow and spending increases substantially. So again, we had put about probably 120, 150 grand, somewhere in there, into the first 7 purchases. Remember that spreadsheet over here, or that PowerPoint? Remember the 6 houses in a duplex? We had put about, let's just say 150 grand into buying those. Down payment, make ready, closing cost, all of that. All that moves over to the apartments, plus appreciation, plus what we had in mortgage pay down. Our income went up. Our real net like spendable cash flow went up dramatically. So it is true. But remember, expenses go up. They went from 20 to 40, all these things, right? But it's still net went up, right? My gross was 85 to 52. So if I'm not making more, there's a real problem, right? So it is true. The transition for us keyed growth, but it wasn't without challenges. Again, the drama, the turnover, the bad economy. We had several months where 50% effective occupancy. What do we talk about? Occupancy versus effective? Heartbeats versus heartbeats paying, right? 50%. Because people were losing jobs. Both husband and wife were losing jobs. It was scary. I have invested in a bad economy. Okay? So it's not for everybody. You have to have more reserves, and you'll see me talk about that later. You have to have more reserves. Single-family homes are much, 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 much easier to manage if you work full-time. If it wasn't obvious, we still had a full-time job. My wife still had a full-time job. I traveled over 100,000 miles a year on airplanes. I wasn't sleeping in my own bed 100 nights a year, so I was out on the road. If that is your life, single-family homes are much, much easier to manage. And again, I'm paying property managers, so when I say manage, I mean return phone calls, answer emails. Do we start evictions? Do you approve this expense? Do you have this exception? Right? Do you want to do double deposit? Right? All those things. Again, if you are running fast and hard at your day job, and you only have like 7 seconds a day you can spare, houses are probably better for you. I would never self-manage apartments. You have a screw loose if you're doing that. Anybody doing that? Because again, if you are, bless your heart. That's just drama I don't want. Hi, scary. Okay, so things to consider. If you're going to go to 80 units, you better have stuff in place. Processes and procedures better be tight. Your evictions are going to go through the roof. I went years without having an eviction when I only owned 8 units. Years. It's hard for me to go months now without an eviction. We have to have a process for expenses, right? What's the threshold? Anything over 50 bucks, 100 bucks, 200 bucks? When do you get pictures? When do you have multiple bids? Right? All these things you better figure out. Tenant selection. What do you have tenant selection? What was it? 720 credit score? I forget what Jim said earlier. Whatever what's your box? Is your box different for apartments? Probably, right? Right? So you got to figure. You better get tight. You better increase your reserves. When we had 8 units, so 6 houses in a duplex, our reserves was right around 20 grand, 18, 20 grand. Separate account, couldn't touch it, off to the side, only come hell or high water. We found that we had to increase our reserves to almost 50 grand. And we didn't know that up front, so we were surprised. Because when stuff breaks in multifamily, it's really expensive. Right? When a roof goes out on an 18-unit apartment building, that's really expensive. Right? Again, hard to maintain profitably in bad economies. This is why I'm very confident that whenever this cycle turns and we go from 3.5% to 6% unemployment, there are going to be deals all around in multifamily. LPs aren't going to get the preferred return. You're not going to be able to refi because cap rates go from 3.8 to 6.8. And I'm going to be on the sidelines going, I got some cash. I'll buy it. Right? So this is all coming because people live paycheck to paycheck. High occupancy does not mean high effective occupancy. Oh, my building's full. Really? What do you mean by full? Everybody paying? Yeah, maybe today, but that wasn't the case in 08. Also, get ready for bad months. You run 8 houses and you've got equity and position and cash flow, you will probably cash flow every month. You have 80 apartment units, I guarantee you will have some negative months. You will have some monster positive months, but you will absolutely have negative months because you'll have 3 turnovers, plus you'll have a roof leak, plus you'll have a slab leak, plus you'll have a plumbing, it's crazy, right? Value add, anybody seen a value add apartment building? That's like the term today. I got a value add apartment building for you. It just means you're about to spend a ton of money over and over and over and over and over and over again. All those overs, if anybody, I think there's like 6 of them. It's just going to happen. Don't believe it. Bigger is not always better. I told you it was coming. I think that's the last time I say it. Don't believe the hype, right? It's not true. So if the economy turns, anybody think we're going to have 3.5% unemployment for the next 50 years? Awesome, because cycles are real, right? It's the whole capitalist, expand, contract, expand, contract. So it's going to happen. Cap rates are going to expand. Anybody know what happens to cap rates? What happens to value if cap rates go up?
Goes down.
Value goes down. They're inversely related, right? 3.8% cap rate goes to 6.8. You're suddenly $1.5 million apartment's worth 800 grand, right? You get the idea. It's bad. Because the other thing that's important difference between residential and commercial financing? Residential, you can go get a 30-year fixed rate loan and doesn't care what happens to that building, they can't call your loan. Commercial loans, you have 3, 5, 7, best case 10 years. Most of us in this room can't get 10, so it's 3, 5, or 7. Anybody willing to bet the economy is going to be as good in 7 years as it is today? You are if you're buying commercial apartments today, because you're going to have to refi in 7 years. And if you're refining in an environment where rates are going from 4% to 7%, your cap rate went from 3.8 to 6.8, you're fucked. Do the math. You're going to have to take money out of pocket or give asset back to bank. That's what the math says. You're going to have move-in specials, half months off. Anybody in here in the last 2 years given a move-in special or half off rent? Nope. Unemployment, good. It won't always be that way. We have had to do this over the years. Turnover is the killer. And again, today people are staying. Do you actually know the worst time to be a single-family housing landlord? In my 20 years. 2007. Do you know why?
Everyone was buying.
Because everybody could get a freaking loan for less than first month's rent and deposit. Because they would lie. So I was losing tenants that had no right to buy to these liar loans. I had to do move-in specials for about 8 months to get people in my nice quality homes because people were buying stuff they couldn't afford. You know the best time to own single-family homes is when they're all getting kicked out and they need to live in a home. It's just the reality of the situation. So again, when I do my remodels, this is what I think about. I want to own my stuff forever. That's what I think. I want to own them. I want to give them to my kid. I want her to be financially free when I'm dead. She's taken care of. So I think about that. Laminate flooring, undermount sinks, granite countertops, tile in the bathroom, anywhere there's water. And then I use semi-gloss because it's easier to clean. You do that up front, it makes turnovers less expensive, easier, faster. Right? I can do a turnover usually in a day now because usually it's a heavy cleaning. I do put carpet in bedrooms now in my houses. There was a time where I did laminate everywhere. People in California are soft. They like to have carpet on their feet in their bedrooms. I'm sorry. We're soft. I include myself. So, but there you go. So phase 2 summary. You don't have to go to phase 2. You can win by just having houses. I applaud you if you do that. Bigger is not better. Oh, I lied. It's went there one more time. Sorry. That's the last time. Apartments are much harder to manage, more time, more headaches. Expenses go up substantially. If you ever see an apartment deal with less than 40% expenses, run away. Run away. I've been doing it for a decade. It doesn't happen. Market cycles can make selling or exchanges no-brainers. There are events like this going on around the country where there are gurus getting everybody psyched up. And you're going to run out and buy stuff. I will sell into that environment. And today, everybody is running at multifamily. I just sold an 18-unit apartment building for $100 grand more than it was worth that needed $200,000 in immediate investment. Some stupid syndicator came across, got a bunch of LPs to kick in cash for equity, and they're going to run it. Like, I'll buy that in about 4 years. Fine with me, right? And then I just went and bought a bunch of houses, or exchanged to a bunch of houses. Cash flow can increase substantially, so it is a good thing, right? Phase 2 is real. 8 to 80 is real. 8,500 to 52 grand is real, right? So it is powerful. So houses can be overvalued. Back in 07, 08, they were overvalued, so I sold. Today, multifamily is overvalued, so I'm selling. Not all of them. I'm keeping some that are monsters that cash flow great that I want to hold forever, but I'm selling some of the less well-performers, yes?
So when you go back, you're 1031ing those, right?
Yeah, of course.
1031ing those back into single family?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Buying a portfolio, or how are you?
Yeah, I'm buying, the one deal I did last year, I bought somebody's entire portfolio. 32 different single family homes. Well, duplexes and 32 units.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you made this is an add-on question to that.
Sure, please.
When you had your initial houses and you shifted over your multifamily, 1031 exchanging can be a portion of it.
Yep.
You couldn't just use the sale of the houses to buy all those apartments. You must have had to also go and reposition some of those apartments and refi and take the capital.
I didn't. I could have. I didn't.
You didn't, eh?
No. I took all the equity. I usually came in at about 60% LTV because I had so much equity in those houses because California ran so much and they were under. Yeah, so 60% LTV. We had to do some repositioning, but we just did those turns. But no, I never refied them. My intention was to keep, I'm a buy and hold guy. I'm not a flipper, I'm not all of those things. But I didn't, when I was doing this, I had no dream of being financially free. I was just trying to get the next deal done. That's all I was trying to do. Did I answer your question?
No, it did.
Yep. Any other questions? I've been talking a long time. Yes, up. You can't, but if you buy enough houses and the value of the portfolio is bigger than what you're selling, you can go back. You can go from apartments to houses. It's just I bought 32 units that was worth more than the apartment building. So you have to up level. It's called up leg, I think it is. You have to go bigger. The value has to be bigger and it has to be like kind. Rentals for rentals. It can't be owner occupant, stuff like that. Thank you. In the back, yep.
Can you talk a little bit more about any percentages that you set aside? I think you said you have to increase your reserves.
Yep.
You just gave a dollar amount, but is there like a certain formula that you use for that?
So I don't have a percentage. I can only tell you what I've done. It's just who I am. So when we had our first house, we started with $5,000 in reserves. Again, we set up a separate account, not auto-linked to anything else. It was a rainy day fund that we never thought about unless the water heater went out or the roof went out or something. And as we added more, we increased that by $2,000 a house. So as we went from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, so that got to be around 10 or 12 grand when we had all those 6. Then we went to the apartments. We actually didn't increase our reserves until we spent it all. We're like, oh shoot, this is painful because apartments are expensive. So that's when we increased it to 20 or 25 or whatever I said, right? So you just have to have reserves. So I'm sorry I don't have a percentage. Yeah?
Are there any multifamily that you would not buy, like a certain style of multifamily, or if they have certain features, is there stuff that you stay away from?
So is that a question about today or the grand scheme of 20 years of investing? So in the grand scheme of investing, I will look at any deal that's a rental. I'm a landlord. So I put them all in my spreadsheet, and I figure out what's going to produce the highest cash-on-cash return. I call it yield. So I don't discriminate, right? I'll look at all of them. I do want to do land, so I don't think I would do a leasehold, for example, right, which is popular in some states. I don't think I would look at that because I don't own the dirt. But in the then if you ask me today, I wouldn't touch multifamily, at least on-market multifamily. I did buy one package last year, but that was a relationship purchase and owner financing. Owner financing is awesome. Sounds like you guys had a presentation on that yesterday from Walter. Awesome. Right, when you can organize that, it's really powerful. Does that answer your question? Not really?
No, Mike. So let's say there may be some older multifamily that has boilers for their heater system or top roof air conditioning.
I have those, yep.
Some people will use that to discriminate in terms of whether or not they'll buy. I think that may get to.
Yeah, so I would look at all of them, right? If you had a boiler, again, I invest in California, so I don't have snow, I don't have those kinds of things. So if you invest in a market that has that extra stuff, I'm not your guy. But yeah, I will look at everything. If you just had one big boiler for an apartment building and it was 50 years old and it was going to go bad, I would just make that part of my make-ready cost, knowing that I'm going to replace it in the first 2 years, and I would just use it in the numbers. I look at everything. I want to know how hard my cash is working. But I will do my due diligence up front. And again, when this make-ready cost that I talk about so casually, I want it to be the make-ready cost to the nice things that we just talked about, right? Laminate flooring, fix everything, right? What's that going to cost me the first year of operations? That goes in my number, right? So that's what makes a lot of my multifamilies look ugly today because of this value-add stuff, right? Because they're just absurdly priced, right? Because I'm not going to run a building like a slumlord. I'm going to go, fix 80% of the units, and that just blows up my number.
I was just going to say to her question back there.
Yeah.
I invest in a market that experiences, extremely hot summers, but just got a foot of snow yesterday. So flat roofs.
Sounds like Texas.
Flat roofs are concerning to me.
Yeah.
And how the utilities are billed are extremely concerning because
Yeah.
my wintertime heat bill can be atrocious, you know, even with their windows open and running their, you know, heat.
Yeah.
So, those things definitely are.
Yeah, so if you have utilities that are centrally metered and you, the landlord, own those, again, you would know that up front. Either figure out a way to do a bill back or what it costs, right? Because you can fix that. Figure out what that is. But I would do that up front, right? Figure that out. I buy stuff with flat roofs, but again, I go in the first year and go, okay, you know, we're going to put in a new coat. All of that goes right in the cost. Because I want to make sure these things are as hands-off as possible, is my hope.
Next question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi. So as far as getting to phase 2,
Yep.
how long do you wait when you do a cash out refi? Like what percentage of equity do you look for before you convert and buy? Say you have 4 and you want it to 8.
Okay. Oh, I like that. So here's my first rule of thumb. So the first cash out refi I did wrong. Actually, the first thing I was ever known for is this thing called no alligators. Anybody follow me long enough to know what I mean by no alligators? So no alligators is a code word for negative cash flow. You know, everybody gets negative cash flow, but it's not painful enough. So I created this image of an alligator eating bags full of money. So the reason I do this is because the first house I did a cash out refi, and I assumed the bank would be conservative. Dummy I was. I took all the money that they would give me. Lo and behold, a month later, I realized that I am now taking money out of my personal savings account to write the mortgage payment. And I had to do that for every year until I sold that house. I will never do that again. So run your numbers. I want to make sure the property that I'm refining still cash flows. Several $100s, right? I don't know your market. But don't assume the bank's going to be conservative. So that's my answer to that. Keep positive cash flow.
I get that question a lot too, so let's just talk about that for a second. Because there's elements of wealth building that come into play. And lines of credit, I know people strategically use lines of credit, but they can also be like crack cocaine to a real estate investor.
Yeah.
Honestly. They get it and they spend it, they don't, because it's so easy, they don't think about how they're spending it. So be careful on lines of credit. We're going to talk about that later with David Richter also. But when you're doing your cash out refis, do you really need that cash out, or can you just pay off the loan? And is that good enough? And then, because then you got amortization. My goal is to get stuff paid off. So I want amortization. Amortization is wealth building while you're sleeping. So if you could do a 20-year loan, do it. If you have to take 25, that's okay too. But pay a little extra every month. And Michael, you and I have had this conversation, like, what can we do to position our rentals as we buy them so that maybe in 20 years they're paid off and worth twice as much? Would that be a good goal? Is that possible?
For sure.
Depending on your investment criteria, where you buy. If you have the long-term mindset, like in 20 years, I want all these assets paid off. So if you've got $5 million in loans, in 20 years, they may be worth $10 million with no debt. Would that be interesting to you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. I'm really glad you asked it. Other questions? Sorry for jumping in, Michael.
It's your show, baby.
It's on podcast. We've done this multiple times.
Yes.
Who else has a question on building a rental portfolio, scaling it? Another question? Here we go. I'll come in. Don't worry.
Stay in Fresno, or did you expand?
Stayed in Fresno. We did look at Texas and Nevada and some other markets in 08 when we were making that decision. But we stayed in Fresno. We didn't want to build a new team. We didn't want to risk what we had. We're happy. We did stay in one market. Good question.
Now you can expand. I've stayed
You can.
in Virginia my whole life, but like Stephen Farr lives in Ottawa, Canada. He's been investing in beautiful South Bend, Indiana. Right? So you can do
It is
that.
beautiful.
I'm sure. I've been there, but it's been many years. Notre Dame is very beautiful. Other questions on how to build your rental portfolio, your first one or your 50th? Oh, good. You guys are good. Never be afraid to ask a question. If you want to grow as an entrepreneur, learn to ask questions.
Can you just talk a little bit more about the financing for going from,
Residential to commercial?
residential single family? when it's starting out to get, I mean,
Oh.
we talked a lot about that already, but did you get any particular things or?
So we're talking about the first purchases we did?
You had W-2 income.
I had W-2 income. Yeah, it's easy. We just went to who had our loan or who had our savings and checking account was Wells Fargo. So the first 3 loans we got were Wells Fargo. First loan, I didn't know any better, so I got a 20% down. I didn't know any better. I then learned you could do an 80-10-10.
What is that?
80-10-10 is an 80% first, a 10% second, and 10% down. I'm no idiot, but I realized if I could still cash flow, I could buy more.
Leverage.
Leverage. So we did 80-10-10s for the next 2. Then Countrywide started coming around because we were.
Oh, you guys remember Countrywide?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then Countrywide was doing 80-10-10s and then just all these weird loans. So that's what we used for the next.
So if you
4.
have, if you have reportable income and you have the ability to get 30-year fixed at 4% right now, I would recommend you do that.
I would recommend you do that every day.
But there are people in this room that have W-2 income, and they can do that. I do that.
Yeah.
I encouraged my youngest daughter, Carissa, to do that, who was going to speak yesterday, but she has the flu. She works as a registered dietitian at the hospital.
Yeah, if you can get a 30-year fixed rate at 4.5.
Why not? I can't get it.
I can't get it. I'm jealous.
And not. You get up to, I think, 8 of them in Fannie Mae, or 10.
10. 10's
You guys, mortgage people know, right?
Yes,
10. Is it 10 per person?
person.
Barry?
It's 10 finance, so your primary accounts is 1.
Yes.
And 9 others.
So now, if Cheryl and I both had jobs, I could get 9, she could get 9?
No, well, depends on who's staying there.
Yeah.
All right.
It's per person.
Something to
Person.
consider, right?
It's per person.
Yes.
Imagine getting up to 18 houses, 30-year fixed at 4% interest.
Aww.
You'd be set,
Still
right?
investor, you're still going to pay a higher rate.
Yeah, of course. You're going to pay more like 4.8. I just,
4.5.
yeah.
4.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Killing me,
go
4.5.
Yeah.
This is what I do on those, just to let you know, I'm a mortgage banker today. I have rental properties, so I'm in W-2. So what I did, I bought cash.
Okay.
I don't have to do that, but I bought cash from my properties, there's no debt on it.
Nice.
I moved those properties out of my name into a LLC. Therefore, when I go from my mortgage on one of my investment properties
Yep.
at 4%,
Yep.
my properties in my LLC did not show up on my
Correct.
credit report at all,
Yeah.
and therefore they're not considered a finance profile.
Yep.
Even if they show up on your tax return?
It's different EIN. Yeah.
That's good.
Yep, because it's under my LLC.
Okay.
So that's a way to get past that.
Yeah, so the question was if you're going to go down that route of getting all 9 in your personal name, then how do you, the trade-off of the liability and the risk?
Mary Hart, I think, is still in the room.
Just outside.
Oh, Mary, I was going to give you a plug. So talk to an attorney. I am not an attorney. I am not a. Mary, hi! Woohoo!
Wave hello, Mary, blow some kisses, whatever. Hey,
Yeah. So talk to entities. Talk to an attorney. Talk to someone like Mary Hart.
one thing
She's amazing.
I want to consider that, and I'm not going to tell you how to do this, we don't provide legal or tax advice, you guys remember, is a period of time after the refi, consider deeding it over to a trust or an LLC. Talk to your attorney about that. And Cheryl's going to talk about that in a little bit also, right? So I'm not telling you how to do it, but that's what I was strongly considering. All right, any other questions? Okay.
You can just ask.
I like trust better than LLCs. You guys know that now.
All right, so person, you get your first rental. In addition to accounting like a percentage of your monthly cash flow or whatever, the monthly amount of money from the rent for expenses, how much money do you want to have in cash reserves in general, like a range for expenses on expenses?
I would have 5. If you had your first rental home, I don't know your market, your area, but for my first rental home, I had $5,000 set aside.
So cash reserves is something that real estate investors ignore and they never plan for. You guys agree? But it's important. The other one?
Deferred maintenance.
Deferred maintenance. Yep.
Talk to you all day about that.
You got it. It's real.
No cash reserve, but I fix everything immediately. I don't want to hear from you.
Me neither.
well, can you finish in 5 minutes because we just have so many questions?
I could be done now if you want this.
No.
Yeah.
We're gonna close out.
Okay.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Are you learning? Yeah. All right, good. Take it away.
All right, so let's, so the keys to phase 3, and again, the beauty of this is I've already recorded this presentation, so in about 2 hours, it'll be up on my YouTube channel. What is the YouTube channel? Paying attention, yeah. So all this is there. The beauty of phase 3 is you've made financial independence, your bills are paid. Don't do anything stupid. I've known plenty of people that get to this place and they get bored. They go open restaurants, they go do nightclubs, they go do dumb shit, and then they're broke again. Don't risk that. Be happy. Life is good. Enjoy what you do every day. So what are we doing now if you really care? I spend a lot of time teaching people. We're still growing. Some people ask, are you still growing? Yeah, but I'm only growing with seller financing. Lots of seller financing deals all the time. I actually market to sellers that are over 60 with a lot of equity, saying, hey, wouldn't you rather have a monthly payment versus headaches of being a landlord? So I pick up a couple of portfolios a year that way. We're selling multifamily, technically exchanging. We're flipping stuff. I'm buying slumlord properties, spending 40 to 60 grand, and then selling them to first-time landlords in California. That's fun. We've done 40 of them. I never flipped a property in my life until I was retired because I didn't have time, but now I have lots of time. And again, I'm teaching people getting 4 to 8 houses is awesome. Most people change their lives. And again, you don't have to take pictures of this. It's all available on YouTube if you want. But if you want to take a picture, go ahead. How to follow me? I produce daily content. Again, I did a live stream today at 4:30 in the morning talking about the American dream. Stuff gets posted on Instagram. I have a podcast. Everything goes up Saturdays. So they take all my YouTube videos, strip out the video, and just post the audio if you like audio, called One Rental at a Time. I have the book, One Rental at a Time. I do have a course called How to Get Started. I have a gift for you at the end. We'll talk about that. My 2 sites, One Rental at a Time, and then I just created an office in Fresno called The Hub, which I'm really, really proud of. I actually show it here. So I like being unique, like to do things different. Anybody here ever get a mailer from a wholesaler? Yeah, that happens. I get those every day. So what I did is I bought an office building in Fresno. You see it pictured there. That's after the remodel. I staffed it with real estate professionals, licensed agents, licensed contractors, a really well-known flipper, and then 4 different wholesalers. So they're paying me rent and they're bringing me deals. And then I'm telling you, I'm different. And I'm letting them use my name, right, using my reputation, the One Rental at a Time book, to give them more cachet. But if you can read this, right, we're marketing very differently. So I'm attracting more and more businesses to the hub, and I'm getting more and more deal flow, and I have no employees.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, no employees. All right, so here's the summary. You can get that later. I want to give you the gift because I created it for Jim. Yeah, so again, if you want to understand understand what bad, average, good, and great is, you like that story, you want to know how to compare all these deals, I had to go out and create a course after last year's event because so many people asked me to do it. So I created it. So it usually goes for $199. I've created a coupon code called Jim25, so you'll get 25 bucks off, and I will mail you an autographed copy of the book, which is 15 bucks on Amazon. So you buy it. Huh? What? Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, 160 or something. But anyways, I wanted to do that for Jim because he invited me out. So again, the only question that matters, bad, average, good, or great. Understand how to compare deals. You want to get our story, you don't have our book, I will send you an autographed copy. All you have to do is go to the website, onerentalatatime.com. Have fun.
All right.
So who's got the takeaway from this morning that you'd be willing to share?
I should have cash reserves.
Just a little.
Couple, really. The first one was the value add opportunities. You know, we hear that all the time, especially in CoStar and LoopNet.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know it, like, especially here in this market, someone bought something over in like North Churchill. It's like 80 units or something. They bought it at an auction for like $300K. It's on LoopNet for like $800,000. They didn't do anything to it. And then the other one was it's really great 1031 exchange information because, like, you know, if you guys don't know about that, that is awesome, tax-free, as Jim always is preaching, you know, free forever.
Awesome. Anyone else with a takeaway from this morning? So good to see you. Ken and Jay, stand up real quick. I want everybody to know these guys love military veterans. At the beginning of my opening, we clapped for the military. Ken is former military, with the best military stories I've ever heard in my life. They love and help military veterans every day of their life, and I want to give them a big warm round of applause.
And for the people that have not been part of this or have just started, I personally know 80% of everybody who spoke over the last 3 days. And they're all like I am with other people's money. They would sooner take a bullet than to lose other people's money. And Jim and Cheryl and all the speakers here are those kind of people. And when you align yourself and take relationships so seriously, I mean, God said it is a Doc Phelps here. So I told him 3 or 4 times that I credit him with the first time I ever heard your net worth is your net worth. I take it another step. Your net worth is your emotional and family net worth. And you gotta take it seriously and be transparent. And I can't thank you guys enough. My takeaway, or one of the takeaways, is if you're vetting apartment or multifamily paperwork and it says less than 40% expenses, shred it.
James talked about that a couple days ago too, right? Just because the LoopNet listing says X and is based on some pro forma doesn't mean it's accurate.
Yeah.
Truthful and accurate doesn't always exist. Yeah.
Just very quickly, I thank you for saying it's okay to have 8 units.
Yes. So,
I said it 3 times.
Here's the thing, people ask me all the time, like, how many units do you own, Jim? It's like they want, it's like some magical answer, like, if I have this many units, I will be financially free. And I always say, it doesn't matter how many units I have, first of all, and it's really none of your business, but I know the root, like the why you're asking. It's because you want to carve out the path for your life that you want. But I have met landlords at the landlord retreat with Jeffrey Taylor in St. Kitts that I've had breakfast with. Cheryl and I have 100 rentals, correct? No cash flow. And struggling. They were all alligators. And I've met people, I remember Peter Ford
Kill me now.
saying, you only need like 10 houses that are free and clear to provide you with a free and clear life the rest of your life. Woo! That's it. It isn't like this magic, and I guess you talked about it too, it isn't like this magic number, like where you gotta have 800 doors, or you gotta be Grant Cardone, or whatever. You know what I mean? You can do it. That's my take on it. Do you have a follow-up on that?
No, I think you said it well. Awesome.
I guess we agree, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So I'm glad you said that, Jane. Anybody else have a key takeaway from this morning? Are we good? Oh, got another one? And then we're going to break, okay? I get excited talking about rentals. If you want to start with nothing, 0, start buying rentals and just keep them. It's not get rich quick. That doesn't exist in real estate. Get rich slow does.
Well, mine's real quick because I need to work too. But I just want to say thank you for saying that apartments are overpriced. That's the hype now. So as a broker, I'm always telling my clients, numbers don't seem right to me. So now I'm allowed to say, well, Michael Zuber said.
There you go.
That you have the screws.
You go ahead, they can call me.
So-
I'm pretty open. I'll tell them.
I want to buy an apartment, so if you find some, let me know, but they've got to be the right price. And you heard Tom Berry out in the hallway, he had 400 units in Houston. What he said, when somebody wants to pay you too much for your stuff, go ahead.
Exchange it.
Exchange it, even better.
We can always get more.
Why pay the IRS, baby?
Got another one?
You didn't actually say this, but does anybody here know Bill and Kim Cook?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I was at an event with Bill, and he said, yeah, I had somebody who cashed out on their house, and they took $100 grand, and they went and bought a really nice car. And I said, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you take that $100 grand, buy a house, and let the payment pay for the car? And I was like, well, that's pretty cool, because you still have the equity.
Absolutely.
So, sort of the same thing.
So I remember that one of my first boot camps, somebody, I can't remember his name, he moved out of Virginia, but he sent me a picture of his Mitsubishi car in front of a house over, not far from Churchill in Richmond. And he said, like, the people paying that house paid for my car. It's just a mindset shift. You don't need junk in the trunk. Just buy assets. Anyone else? Hey, it's not quite right.
So I have a question as well. But,
Sure.
as part of the takeaway that is kind of going on with what you were saying here, the fact that when you do refi, make sure you're still cash.
Oh, please, yes.
I think it's very important
Alligators are real.
to acknowledge there. And my question is, on your last slide, you mentioned that you're now flipping rentals to new landlords.
Mm-hmm.
Why do turnkey rentals over flipping to a retail buyer?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I'm not greedy.
Ooh.
Everything I have bought and flipped, I could have sold to owner-occupant in today's market because everything is flying off the shelf. I don't need the extra 10 grand.
Landlords will sometimes buy multiples. Like
Exactly. I have sold every property before I finished. If I was going to sell to owner-occupants, I would have to have them vacant, done, staged. I would have time risk. I don't want my life is so good right now.
So you're more the fast nickel than the slow dime.
Every day. And it feels good helping, because so many people follow me now. People are going, hey, I'll take the next one, I'll take the next one. I'm like, great.
good deal.
It helps to build your community.
Absolutely. One rental at a time, baby.
Yeah, it helps to build your community. So,
Yeah. So not greedy, like to help.
All right, Juan, can you come up real quick? We're going to close out with one more success story. I keep hearing from you guys, you love these stories. I hope. How about a young entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur that has multiple businesses, including a kickback contracting business? And women and contractors can be a challenge, but you handle it seamlessly. How do you do all these businesses, and what were some of the success tips for you?
Well, number one, I have a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to do what
And a
I
great
do.
attitude. How do you have such a great
I would say I'm a positive person. So I was just talking to Lori outside that I appreciate everything every day. So even coming here, Nathan was the one who told me about this class. I actually didn't know that. And I said, Nathan, I'm sorry the class is sold out. I can't go. He said, well, right. So, I was able to make it. I appreciate it. Do you guys know how much other people would give to come here? Like, I had no idea this class was this amazing. And, try to go back to your question about being able to run some businesses. I went to school for finance. I graduated from VCU, and I fell into construction. That's another story. And then I, learned about every aspect of it. I mean, I started with, a few trades. How I got into it was roofing, siding, and then I learned framing. When I got enough knowledge, I went and got my Class A license. I studied, you have to study for that. And then I started, to do more. I would say the success comes from the people that surround me. I was able to hire really good key people. And then they help me build the business, and take your money, we invest in something else. I owned a restaurant with mom. Even though I knew it was a bad idea, my mom convinced me to go to the restaurant business, which was terrible. And I told her, and I would say she failed. I helped her get out of it. And a lesson learned. So, you know, there's ups and downs in life. And one thing is you have to learn from your downs. If you didn't learn from your failures, then you can't learn to fix what mistake you made. You can't, you know, really grow and become successful.
Thank you.
And have a positive attitude every day. Life is too short. We don't know tomorrow what it even happens. So you need to treat everyone with respect. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated, because you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity to do it tomorrow.
Beautiful, wasn't it? Did you have fun?
I had fun, yes.
All right. Did you guys have fun?
Yeah.